What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Mystic Watch, and today we got a brand new video. We're going to be going over our own personal top 10 list for 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross. The 10 best units regardless of PvP or PvE, just overall who are the best units in this game. With Global around the corner, it'd be fun to make this list so you guys know, who to aim for when Global comes out. Now, regardless, this is going to be my own personal based on my experience with the game and the time I've spent. What I'm basing this video off of, or the reason for me to make this video, is because recently Nagato made his own video where he took a poll and he did a community top 10 list. So this is the video for that, and I'll link this video down below. So this is purely like this was 100% community based tier list or top 10 list, whatever you want to call it. So this was quite interesting because it's weird when I have my own opinion, and when I look at it like this, it's like, wow, there's a lot of things that differ on here. And even though I don't agree with this list has made me think twice about some of the units on my own tier list, or how I'd rank some of my own units regardless. So without going too much into this, we'll kind of just click around and I'll show you who he has for top 10. There's no like written way where I can kind of just go and show you how it is, but I believe this is his tweet. This right here is red Escanor, followed by blue Demon Mellitus, followed by Gother, into green Escanor. Then we got some of these aren't named, which is weird. Okay, you know what? It's too much effort. But you can watch his video and see his top 10. And if anything, I'll just click around. Red Escanor, stuff. But we're going to go into my list now. So my list is purely my opinion. But I've been playing this game from day one. So let me know what you guys think. If you have your own personal list, or if you disagree with whatever. The one thing I ask for is don't go too crazy when it comes to disagreeing. Feel free to debate, discuss, but don't ever attack anyone for their opinion. So starting off with number 10, we're gonna go with Gil Thunder. So he is the only SR on my list, and we're talking about overall best units in the game. So Gil Thunder is a unit. And also, before I get into it, I'm using Grand Cross database for this. I usually have it linked down below, but just in case you guys are wondering, here it is. So Gil Thunder is such a good unit, but gets overlooked because he's not an SSR, and people don't realize it. Like, if I told you that Gil Thunder is a top 10 unit, you'd probably agree. But if I asked you to come up with a top 10 list prior to mentioning Gil Thunder, he most likely would not have been on your list. Only because he's not a unit you tend to remember, right? He's not anything spectacular. He doesn't do anything crazy broken. But the thing is, he's on every single team. I wouldn't say every single team. I would say he's everywhere. You can use him in PvE all the time. You use him in raids. Almost every single raid known to man uses Gil Thunder, especially Gray and Crimson. Red, not as much, but you can use him there. When it comes to PvP, he is amazing in PvP. Up until this new king came out that reduces penetration, Gil Thunder has been one of the most prime units as a 4th unit slot, right? Because you throw him in the back and he increases defense with his passive by 30% in PvP, making him amazing in both geared and ungeared. You see him on Valenti teams, you see him without Valenti, it doesn't matter. He's just a unit that is used in both PvP and PvE around the clock. And this is, not who's the most broken or anything. This is just best units in the game. So definitely a unit to invest into. He's also one who has his own engravings now, so you can make UR gear for him if you want. But yeah, that's it for number 10. Number 9, we have red Demon Mellitus. So he's a unit that is... he's not like a necessity, but he makes... Like, without him, your raids are so much harder to do. When you're first getting into Crimson Raid, Red Demon Mellitus is the person who you need to do anything, really. And most of it comes down to his ignite stacks, right? He just stacks ignites up for forever, and then he has weakness on his ultimate, does 3 times the debuff targets, and he just blows them up. Simple as that. When they change his passive so that he gets 50% for each dead ally, and this also works if he's in the back, like he doesn't need to be present for the ally dying, it made him also a viable PvP unit. He's not like a tier 1 unit by any means, but if you put him on your team, you're not going to lose by running him. He's definitely a really good 4th unit. He comes out and he does plenty of damage. I've used him plenty of times myself, so the fact that he's a coin unit as well means you can get his ultimate up, raising his CP even higher. And then besides that, between story mode, training cave, and guild boss, you know, you need him. It's just like, he's not a unit. When people think about top 10 units in this game, their mind immediately goes to PvP, right? And that's not what top 10 is. Because, like, overall units, even though Mellitus isn't as high on the PvP spectrum, he's one of the best PvE units in this entire game. So, that's Demon Mellitus. Also, because of the fact that other Demon Mellitus already has his engraving, means that, you know, he's very easy to get good gear on. That's number 9. Number 8, we're going to Valenti. The second unit to come out, or second original unit to come out in this game. Third one technically, but it went Lilia Valenti. So Valenti is kind of a Lilia counter. Lilia provides penetration, and then what Valenti does is at the start of the battle, decrease all enemies' penetration by her endurance. So penetration and endurance are their own like counterparts. And yeah, penetration is broken. As you've seen, if you played even 2 games of PvP, you have already met with Lilia and Demon Mellitus. And you've known that getting one-shot by them is very, very, very common. So Valenti, if you run Valenti into a team with Lilia and Demon Mellitus, they're going to have a horrible time against you. On top of that, she has double debuffs. This one is actually really good because you got the 20% defense-related stats, meaning you got their endurance, crit resist, and crit defense all down, not just defense. And then you also have the attack down, but it requires her to have it ranked up once. Her biggest problem is that she herself does not do much damage, and she is just there to exist for her debuff and her passive. Besides that, her her ultimate doesn't really do that much damage. Like, burst is a really good key or a tag to have on your skill, but even then, it's just like, there's plenty of times where my Valenti just does not kill a single thing ever, and it really, really, really bothers me. Unfortunately, I spent 1500 gems on this recent banner hunting for Blue Lilia, and only got 1 copy of her after 1500 gems. I managed to get 8 copies of Valenti. So my Valenti is maxed out now, and I won't have a problem killing people with their ultimate. That is number 8 to number 7, Blue Demon Mellitus. So we talked about Red Demon Mellitus. Blue Demon Mellitus, on the other hand, pairs very well with Lilia. He can't be attack sealed, which is at first glance when this unit comes out and you're reading the patch notes, this doesn't seem like a big deal. But because Gother is one of the best units in the game, this passive is amazing. Getting attack sealed and then not being able to do anything is really, really, really unfortunate. But here we go. So he applies Penetrate, which triples his penetration, and then he attacks. Penetration, which I should have mentioned on the last one, means how much percentage of their defense are you cutting through. So if they have an insanely high defense stat, penetration gets through that by a percentage amount. And then to counter that, you have endurance. So with the penetration provided by Lilia and Demon Mellitus' skill, he does an insane amount of damage regardless of the typing and just completely obliterates everything. He's also amazing in Guild Boss and just farming in PvE. One of the best farmers in the game. Main skill is this one. this corrode is okay. It's there. It helps apply a debuff for you to use your ultimate. It does decent damage early on. A lot of if you get like level 3 corrode is insane. But besides that, you know, it does some damage. It's a nice way to proc. If they're running dodge food, it gets through that. That's really it. He's just a monster in PvP and usable in, very commonly used in PvE as well as guild boss. He's not really used in raids as much. You do run him. You can run him in Hell Red. Now we are currently. This was what, 7? We start with Gil Thunder, Mellitus, Valenti. Yep. So this was 7. Number 6, Green Merlyn. This was one of the biggest differences that I had with the community tier list, or community polled tier list. There was no Merlyn on the list. Merlyn was the honorary mention, and for me, that's like a big, like, oof. Merlyn is one of those units similar to Gil Thunder where flies under the radar regardless of how much she's seen play. You use her in Gray EX, you can use her in Crimson EX like here. PvP in both. She's one of the best ungeared units in this entire game. And then on top of that, in geared, she's also very good. She's fallen less, more out of favor. I don't know what the saying is. But she's not used as much now because people are running more straight up damage rather than build up and stall for ultimates, which is what she helps out a lot with. Increases all allies' ultimate gauge by 1, which is one of the best passives in the entire game. You can run her in the front, you can run her in the back, but the main thing is she can stall really well because she can nip away at people's ultimate gauge, gaining yourself an extra turn to do something, while also providing barriers. Her ultimate does a immense amount of damage because she's also a coin shop unit. And then she has her Fate skill with Arthur, and you can use it with the SR Arthur, meaning that majority of the time you're doing a good amount of extra damage with your ultimate, one-shotting any green unit or blue unit. And if a red unit is at like 3/4 HP, you're probably killing them too. So this is my pick for number 6. I use her on my PvP team since like the beginning of day 1. Coin shop unit, free to play, amazing unit. Now let's go to number 5. Blue Lilia. One of the most cancerous units to exist in this game. And it's great. The main reason for it is at the start of the battle, increase the penetration of all allies by 50% of this unit's penetration. So she has 50%, she increases it by 25, and if you run penetration food, it goes even higher. I believe penetration food gives another 30%, meaning you give out another 15%. This paired with Blue Demon Mellitus and Escanor makes for one of the most cancerous comps in the game. You can also run this with Valenti herself, and yeah. So there's not too much to go over here besides the fact that she's amazing in a lot of stuff. You can use her for PvE farming. You just pair her up with 2 AoE units and she does plenty of damage. You use her in every single mode in PvP, geared or ungeared. She has an amazing set of skills as well. She heals on the first rank and cleanses and heals on the second rank, where this is reversed for King. And sometimes you just want that heal, right? You don't really need to cleanse anything. When it comes to her move, she doesn't do any damage whatsoever. But the biggest thing is she removes ultimate gauge by 1, which is so good. And she removes it on everyone. Besides that, her ultimate is fine. Like, it ranks down stuff, it's AoE. Unless you have dupes in here, it does almost no damage. It's really not that big of a deal. You can see the multiplier, right? Like, it starts off at 350, which is such a low number for even for an AoE, and it only goes up to 525. That's really it for Lilia. She doesn't have a high attack stat to begin with, so her ultimate's not that big. You're there for the heal. She's a utility unit, and she's one of the best ones in the game. Also, really good for raids and guild boss. Number 4, Green Escanor. When he came out, I was really disappointed. Like, prior to using him, just by reading what he did, I was really disappointed because I'm like, oh man, Escanor was I've been too lazy to throw my intro on the beginning of my videos, but if you guys saw, I have an amazing Escanor intro made by Oshi, and Escanor is by far my favorite, character of Seven Deadly Sins. So when he first came out, I was ready to wail on him super hard, and managed to get him relatively quickly within one rotation of summoning. So with Escanor, when I'm like, oh, he just does damage and nothing else, like, I was really sad to see that the Ignite only did one Ignite, and then it did one again on the rank 2. I'm like, man, and he doesn't even do anything on his ultimate besides damage. So that made me like, man. And I'm like, his passive 2 is just okay. At max, he can't be buffed, but he cleanses debuffs, so I'm like, yeah, really not that big of a deal. Then I started using him. And you don't need any fancy debuffs or anything like that when you just have Escanor and you just use like 2 level 1 skills and you manage to one-shot someone on their team. And it's such a funny thing. He, as a story unit, he allows you to burn through story with no problems. He is just amazing in PvP, one of the best units possible to use. One of the best. This is such a good passive too. And it's just one of those things where until you use it, you don't understand it. He was able to... It matters less now because they changed how petrifications work. But before, if you were stunned or petrified, if you combine 2 cards to get yourself up to max, or you just move the card around to gain an ultimate gauge to go from 4 to 5, all of a sudden now, you can start attacking again, and that screwed people over. Now you can cleanse and still attack, but this is just like a really good passive, and it works well with him because he doesn't need to be buffed because he already has such an immense amount of damage. Also, penetration wise, 80% is through the roof. He does so much damage. Pair him with Lilia and he's hitting like a truck. If you want to add another 20%, you can do it this way, or if you want to go for the crit rate, you can throw on Merlyn. Merlyn is, you're gonna get the Fate skill as well, and crit rate, he doesn't have that high, so it's like it'll jump up to 40%, which is fine, but the penetration is probably better. Number 3, we start with green Escanor. We're going to red Escanor. This one took me a little bit to figure out who I thought was better, but the more I used red Escanor, the more I realized that he is like equally as good as green Escanor in PvP, but he is way better when it comes to all the other content in the game. His passive is insane. He gets a buff, it's 1 buff for HP related stats, but the biggest thing is regen, recovery, lifesteal, and HP itself. He's super tanky because he's starting the game off with extra HP. He has lifesteal, so even if they don't burst him down, he lifesteals it back up, and then regen and recovery are fine. But this move right here, Amplify, increases damage for each buff on this unit. If you give him an Arthur buff and he does a rank 1, he is annihilating people. And forget about having a rank 3. Like, if you give this guy a rank 3 with even like 2 or 3 buffs, it's absolutely like monstrous how much damage he does. You see him a lot with the Lilia Demon Mellitus comp. You see him with Arthur Gother, and I've also been seeing Gother with Blue Elizabeth, like Ellie Hawk. Because if you get debuffed, she can cleanse it and apply her buff to everyone. And this move is just having an AoE way to rank down ultimate gauge is always such a wonderful skill. Damage wise, it does good damage. This is the same multipliers as Blue Lilia, but the big difference is you have such a higher attack stat on Escanor that it actually does something for once. But yep, number 3 best unit in the game, Escanor. Number 2, this was one of the things that I disagree with heavily on the other list. King was at 6. King is one of the most, if not the most, he's not the most, but he is, to me, borderline best unit in the game. Petrification, broken. His passive is really good because it works on himself. Plus, as more fairies come out, this is only going to get better. We've seen it with King Brum, how rampant of a combo that is, and this is part of the reason why. But yeah, petrification, broken, and healing is broken. Besides that, simple matter of his ultimate on PvP, because he's a coin shop unit, one-shots everything. I have him at 6-6. It is not hard to get him at 6-6 once you start playing the game for some time. You know, I know Nagato started playing like 2 months ago, and he already has like 2 of his units at 4-6 or 5-6 already. So you're going to get SSR coins over time, and you're going to be able to max his ult out. Doing 720% while also ignoring their endurance, meaning you're doing a really, really heavy amount of damage to them. To the point where you use this and you're like, ah, man, it's probably not going to kill, you know, this unit or that unit. And then you realize it just one-shots their whole team. And you're like, oh, okay then, I guess so. So, in terms of comp, he fits on almost every single team possible known to man. He's amazing for red. What do you call it? Red Demon, amazing for Guild Boss. You don't really use him as much in PvE for farming, but he's there for one of the best story units as well. You're not going to get by unless you use him. And to start it all off, he is free to play. Not like he exists as a coin unit and you can buy him free to play. Like, you're literally given this unit for free. So, to me, number 2 best unit in the game. And then, of course, number 1, you haven't seen him yet, so he has to be at the top, Gother. Gother was number 3 on the other list, but this does a good job of explaining it. Like, take a look at this, right, with the unit rating. I don't necessarily agree with everything on this website, but I think it's a wonderful resource for players, and if you're starting off, most of the things here are accurate. It is used everywhere. Every single raid, guild boss, PvE, PvP. His passive is okay. That doesn't matter that much. But like it's fine. Like it does help. That's all that matters. Attack seal is one of the most busted things in PvP ever. Rank up is the literal best skill in this entire game. If rank up didn't exist, we would not be able to beat half the content that is out. And then on top of that, his ultimate at max rank with Fate 600%, and it's just like it also reduces ultimate gauge, which is amazing, and he just does so much damage. If you have him paired up with a king, you get that extra penetration, and all of a sudden he's hitting like a truck on his ultimate for a unit that you'd be surprised. Like, for me, I thought Gother did so little damage that I never bothered getting dupes for him. But in reality, he does a boatload of damage, and you wouldn't realize that. So that's really it. There's not much to talk about Gother besides the fact that if you have him, if you don't have Gother on your team and you're contemplating a team, start with Gother and go from there. Galen came out into the meta, tried to counter him, and Gother's like, no, I'm more broken than you are. And he just stays up on top. So that's it. That's my top 10 of 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross. Hopefully you guys enjoy. And if there's anything else you want to see, let me know down below. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.